I want to welcome everybody to Pit Stop. It's your fortnightly midweek rest area to refuel your drive. I'm Karen Commins. I'm an audiobook narrator, and I'm the chief cartographer for narratorsroadmap.com, and I'm your host for Pit Stop. With me today in the co-pilot seat, as always, is my lovely friend and award-winning audiobook narrator, Anne Flosnik, who hosts the Narrator Uplift Show here on Clubhouse. How are you this afternoon, Anne?
Great. Lovely to be here and excited to meet Erin.
Yes, I haven't met Erin either, and so this is a true exciting time.
Yeah.
Every other Wednesday, audiobook narrators who have vocations beyond narration pull into Pit Stop. They're sure to inspire you to follow your interests and use all of your talents and gifts. I want to let you all know the conversation's being recorded, so you'll be able to re-listen or catch parts you missed. Feel free to comment in the chat and raise your hand in the app if you want to be part of the conversation, because we would love to hear from you. So thanks so much to everybody for joining us. And I am super excited to welcome Erin Bennett to Pit Stop. Erin is an audiobook narrator, actress, singer, and voiceover artist whose passion for storytelling informs her love of narrating audiobooks. Winner of multiple Earphones and Audie nominations. Her genres vary widely, with 500 titles ranging from contemporary fiction to mysteries, nonfiction to fantasy. She has performed in regional theaters on both coasts, and her voiceover work spans animation, radio plays, video games, and commercials. So welcome to Pit Stop, Erin. We're so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you so much, Anne and Karen, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Yay.
Well, I am excited to meet you. I've seen your name for so long, and I'm sure we've crossed, but I don't think we've ever actually gotten to have a conversation. So the next hour is going to be a pure delight.
I've had conversations with both of you in my mind, if that counts for anything.
Oh.
And I've sent many people to you. So, maybe that's just how it works. We look at each other's little avatar pictures and think about one another. And one lovely day in the future, we'll actually get to meet.
Yes. Yeah. And I look forward to that. But Facebook and now Clubhouse have to stand us in the meantime. You know, I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you earned your Bachelor's of Fine Arts from Boston University. Are you from Boston?
No, not at all. I'm from a little town in Northern California called Napa, as in the Napa Valley. But
town.
I wanted to go someplace that had a strong classical theater program. The head of our program had been the head of Lambda, which is the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts, for 13 years. And we had an exchange program where I did part of my junior year in London.
Ooh.
So it was a match made in heaven. And also, to be completely honest, I was a little intimidated by New York City. I wasn't quite ready for to try my hand at a place like NYU. But BU, when I went, was one of the top kind of classical education acting schools. So it was an intense 4 years. We started with 50 actors. We ended up with 17. They do these vicious cuts, and you kind of, come out of it going, I survived. And then it's just in time to dump you into the real world. And the out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. But I loved my time there. I learned things like the International Phonetic Alphabet that have served me well in my narrating career. I didn't know I was going to be a narrator back in those days, but I found that my education has served me in every way in my career as an audiobook narrator. So that's a wonderful thing to look back and go, oh, the arts education actually had some benefit.
It all comes together.
Well, what were you dreaming of at the time? Where did you see yourself going?
I think my fever dream would have been to be in, say, like a Stephen Sondheim musical on Broadway, something that required, to me, just the heights of understanding text and acting and also singing at the same time. That's kind of like the home run derby for me, is something like that. or a great play, or Shakespeare, doing Shakespeare for, 2,000 people without a microphone. Um, those were, yeah, those, but actually, as I got out, my fantasies and my dreams about what I thought an acting career was going to be changed as I, say, went into a recording studio for the first time. And
Well,
when
tell us about that. What was that first studio experience? What were you doing there?
well,
What was it for?
I was getting ready. I was getting ready to graduate from BU, and someone suggested to me, you should make a demo, like a commercial demo, to send to like radio stations or whatever. And I thought, okay, well, I can do that. The school has a little facility, and I went through magazines and tore out magazine copy, and then I went through my CD collection and picked little bits of music, and I made my own little commercials, whatever, and I cut them together, and I sent them out to a bunch of places, and that was kind of my first inkling, by being in a studio, that I was intrigued. I was intrigued by what I was doing in a way that wasn't, like an audition where I'm coming up to something and my heart's pounding and I'm doing 30 seconds of a monologue along with 60 other people in a room, on 8th Avenue in a rehearsal studio, and sweating through my clothes.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable and creative when it was just me and my voice.
I love that story, how you used magazine articles and your own CD collection to create your own demos, and then having the confidence in what you've done to actually put them out in the world. So often I think we create something and then we start second guessing ourselves, and, oh no, nobody's going to listen to this, I shouldn't send it out, kind of thing. And it does kind of go against the traditional wisdom of getting somebody to produce a demo for you.
Well, it was probably a good thing that I have to say the caveat. This was really before, 2007, 2008, when everything suddenly was online. I don't think I would have wanted my first attempt, my first stab at commercial copy to have been my own thing that I did when I was 22. I would say, my commercials and things that I've done, I'm pretty careful about what's out there on the internet, because I've learned that once it's out there forever. And that can be freeing, and that can also be constricting. I think it's different, tens of thousands of hours of my voice is out there on the internet, on with the books that I've done. They're there. But, when you're competing in tight markets for voiceover work, you want it to be tight and professionally produced. That is very different from my experience as an audiobook narrator. I actually do not have any audiobook demos, really, because I have so many audiobooks I can just link to samples from. So the VO world is kind of different in that sense from the audiobook world. And I love them both, but they're different animals.
Mm-hmm. Did you move back to California from Boston and immediately start sending out commercial demos, or what? How did this transpire?
So not immediately. Right after I graduated, I actually had a job at BU. I was teaching a musical theater class for a summer program, and then I lived in New York City for about a year, and I did some shows. I kind of got my feet wet. I got my little baptism by fire, auditioning and just doing the grind. But then I had an opportunity to be managed by someone in LA, And since I'm from California, and actually almost all my extended family is down in LA, I said, oh, well, sure, give it a shot. Moved to LA. The manager then completely disappeared as soon as I moved. That was that's such an LA story. Like, I remember this guy took took my boyfriend at the time and I out dancing in New York City, telling us about the great management company he was opening in LA and how he was going to manage both of us. And then as soon as we moved to LA, he promptly disappeared.
It's so disheartening, though.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that I'd actually forgotten about that for a long time. And then my boyfriend at the time is now my husband reminded me, and I went, oh my God, do you remember that? How traumatized we were by that? But
good. I'm glad it was he who reminded you and not us, because I didn't want to dredge up bad memories for you.
No. This is the wonderful thing about, I love that word bittersweet, because the further it gets in the rearview mirror, it gets less bitter and more sweet. It's just like the bitterness leaves. That the bitterness and the sting of it when it happens feels so all consuming. But I hadn't thought of it in years, and somehow it came up in conversation. I went, oh wow, remember that? Remember when that happened? Remember how devastated we were? You remember how we had to pick up ourselves up and find another way? But that's all this career has been, is picking yourself up and finding another way, and to various degrees of poverty and success and resilience.
So how did you make your way into audiobooks?
Okay, so that is a situation where I have to say I had pretty decent timing for once in my life. So I'll just sort of fast forward a little bit. So we came to LA, and I had the great fortune to start making some TV commercials that were just kind of when they started to want real people. I don't know if you guys remember this, but they started to really kind of move away with some commercials, away from glamour, and they started to want people who were kind of quirky and kind of naturalistic. And I made some commercials, and I did some substitute teaching, and I started working in the regional theater, and things were, moving along. And then I was the way I got into audiobooks was I was recording a BBC radio play for the TV show Torchwood, which I don't know if you guys remember.
Yes.
They filmed a series. They filmed a year at Paramount in LA, and I had to go audition for this radio play. I had to audition on camera. Okay, I had to put on the outfit and the makeup and do the hair and everything, and audition on camera for something that was going to be completely off camera. It didn't matter what I looked like, except I guess in that moment I thought, oh God, that's so LA. I don't know if you can tell, but I often feel very much like a fish out of water in LA. I feel like the most non-LA person who's in LA, but I just have to embrace the absurdity and love it. So I was really excited because it was, I guess, the cast of Torchwood, John Barrowman, God bless him. I guess the British are nuts about the radio plays still, which I love, because they were recording these alongside their on-camera TV show Torchwood. So they needed the part of like an American marine biologist or something. I auditioned for, I got it. I was recording it. They recorded it old school with mics, and you have soft scripts, and everybody's in the same room recording dialogue just like you're in a movie. It's like just like an old-fashioned radio play. The tech and the techniques haven't changed. I love it. And literally a producer stuck his head out toward the end of the day, asked me if I did audiobooks. I lied through my teeth, said I did, and had my first book.
Wow.
And I, in a panic, I went and consulted. So that sounds almost like it kind of happened out of the blue. I had been doing some wonderful regional theater plays with some fantastic audiobook narrators. And I'd started to notice, what do all these great actors who I'm doing stuff at the Pasadena Playhouse with and A Noise Within, and these great, we were doing a Noel Coward play with some audiobook folks, and I was like, what do they all have in common? The nicest actors in Los Angeles, the most talented actors in Los Angeles, who are doing the plays that I love, who are taking time to talk to me and include me, as I'm kind of wandering or bumbling around the Pasadena Playhouse. What do they all have in common? And they all did audiobook. They all did audiobooks. So I was starting to become aware that this was something that actors I admired all had in common. And I was just getting interested in it when I had this experience where I was kind of dropped into doing my first audiobook. And I remembered at lunch, I remember Martin Jarvis was in the break room, and his wife, Rosalind Ayres, who, of course, I've grown up listening to both of them. And my jaw was just kind of on the floor. We're all eating lunch together, like it was a perfectly ordinary day. And I remember that first day I went home and I felt like I had been beaten up. Yes. My whole body was just sore. And I thought, what am I doing? What? I'm in way over my head. This is bad. This is, how can anybody do this? And then, by the fifth day, the final day, I think I thought, well, that's it. That's the end of that.
It was fun while it lasted.
It was fun while it lasted.
And maybe not so fun because you felt beat up, I'm sure, because of all the tension you were holding in your body of, feeling nervous or they're watching or all those feelings that we all relate to.
I didn't know where to put, I was worried about my P's and my, and my characterization. And, I had to really cram reading the book, and it was so all consuming. Yeah. And I guess it was, it was a serious job, and a serious job that requires absolute focus. But flexible focus, like you have to be there giving a performance, but you have to be relaxed enough to survive it.
Well, so obviously the fun wasn't over because that may have been the first, but we know it wasn't the last.
I know. It's so funny. I'm coming up on like 500 or something. I started in that first book. I'll never forget it. It was June of 2012. You know how some dates are just kind of in there. That was the day, my first book. And I think it was reviewed in audio. It was like, oh man, talk about just being dropped into it. I was learning on the job. This was during a time when there was a huge surge in demand for audiobooks. I think this was Audible was suddenly putting out huge swaths of content and content. I'm not saying that word anymore. Of books, and there was a huge demand. And I just happened to be an actress working in the next room over, from someone who, was, can you do this? I'm sure they were pelting him with projects. I think people started to get overwhelmed with, we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this, and they needed people. And I was very fortunate to start during that time. I'm very sensible of that the timing was good. And when I think of all the other things I've wanted to do, and things that I've loved and that have happened and haven't happened, and oh, wouldn't it have been great to, grow up doing Clifford Odets plays in the 1930s, feeling like you're born in the wrong time, or that there's something about your talents that don't line up with what's happening in the culture.
Yes.
I got lucky. I got lucky that they needed people and I was there.
But
I
you're
think
still
sometimes
here.
That's what it comes down to.
No, because you're still here, Erin, and that takes talent. All these years and on all the changes that you'll have seen in your career, because it's not static from starting in 2012. That there's the whole digital revolution and goodness knows what.
That's right. Yes, absolutely.
I want to go back for a second. You said I'm not using the word content anymore, and this is kind of jumping around a little bit, but I know you were quoted today in a Washington Post article titled "AI is coming for your audiobooks. You should be worried." Does that have to do with your sentence? I'm not saying the word content anymore.
See, stuff just comes out of my mouth, and I don't.
Well, because I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't talk about making content either. So I'm curious why you said that.
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned it. Because I have been following. I'm striking with our fellow SAG-AFTRA brethren and our writers with the WGA, who have been making really salient points about when everything is reduced to the concept of content, that this is just stuff to fill to fill a void, that it's not a book, or it's not a screenplay or a teleplay or a novel, that let's call these things, let's give them the honor and the dignity of what they are, works of art, an article, a poem, a play, a playwright, these, like, I forget sometimes that words have meaning, that they really have meaning. They have uber meaning. And I mean that in the original sense of the word, not like Ubermensch, not Uber of the car. So trying to get back to brass tacks and go, what do I do? Do I narrate content? Do I create hours of content that can then be manipulated? And no, I'm narrating an audiobook. I'm an actor who's narrating an audiobook. This is somebody's work. This is somebody's livelihood. And this is my work and my livelihood too. So I'm just trying to be more circumspect and not use the words of, I'm not just grist for some mill, some content mill. We're artists, and we're creating things that have value. And I just want to, that's my long way of saying, I want to try to be conscious about the words that I use when they're important.
Yes.
I really like that philosophy. I split my time between being a narrator and being a website owner, but I develop a lot of stuff for that site. Like right now, I'm working on creating a video course. I mean, it's going from a thought in my mind to an actual thing that people can use. And I have thought of it as content. And I love what you just said, because that really does diminish it. I mean, it's taking me hours, weeks, months, and it diminishes the work that's going into it, the thought, the creativity. And now you've got me. I'm not going to say content anymore either. So,
well, I didn't know I was going to suddenly put a ban on the word content for myself until it flew out of my mouth a couple of minutes
we're all
ago.
going to raise that banner now. It's like, no, it's not content.
But why not? Like, let's make it not content. Let's talk about what you're creating. And there's so much noise. There's so much noise on everywhere we look, on these devices that we hold in our pockets. And I feel like I'm surrounded by content, but if I know what's good for me, I'm looking for something of quality, and that's what I should be putting in my brain, in my consciousness. And your videos that are carefully curated and crafted, I don't want to class that with, some of this junk that just kind of keeps me clicking around mindlessly.
Clickbait. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And whether I'm creating videos, I mean, I'll link to a lot of things that other people have done, but I'm only linking to stuff that I think is really good and valuable to the narrator community. I don't link to just anything, and you have to be a credible person giving credible advice for me to want to share what you're saying. And I think that's true of all of us in this field, that, with there's so many people coming into it, flooding in, seems like, we want people to know what are best practices and how to approach this thoughtfully and as a serious career.
And I appreciate so much your thoughtfulness about that, because, like I said, I'm kind of this fish out of water in LA, and, I'm surrounded by this dream factory. Mm-hmm. And there's such a dark side to that dream factory, and I see it every day. I've learned to be a little more sanguine and humored by it than, before, in the days when I was going from commercial audition to commercial audition in my, little rattletrap Matchbox car, like trying to give this air of, oh, I'm a successstar person. Wouldn't you be lucky to have me? Doing all mm-hmm. that crap, and that sort of, come to LA, be a big star. I mean, it's all around us. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's some of that in the voiceover world too. And there's a lot of fantasy. I mean, to be completely honest with you, I have to say, when I was a kid, and actually this lasted a hell of a lot longer than it should, this concept in my mind, I was like, one day I'm going to go to New York City. And you know what I thought New York City was? I thought New York City was some amalgamation of like movie musicals I'd seen in the 40s, plus The Muppets Take Manhattan, where, like suddenly they just all like go to Broadway, and, like they just, I think I'm one of those people who can be so taken in by the power of the mediums that we're surrounded by, movies, audiobooks, the things I read. It takes on a kind of a life of its own. So I understand when people come to the town that I live and work in, and they kind of have a not clear idea of what it is. I can understand somebody who's sitting somewhere around this country or around the world, thinking about what a career in audiobook narration must be like, and they may think of it as some kind of like the movie version that I have it in my mind of what New York City was. It's I have such kind of a capacity for, yes, imagination on one hand, but also like a little bit of self-delusion on the other, that I really try to recommend people come to your sites, because I want them to get information from people who aren't necessarily trying to make a living off of
selling dreams.
Off of dreams. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. So the fact that all this information is available and that you've curated it and put it out there for free, I just go, I couldn't have made you up in my head and tied you in a prettier bow, and presented you as a gift to aspiring narrators, because there's a lot of, there's an industry. This is a business, and that's something that I didn't realize for years and years and years. I just thought, I love Shakespeare. I rolled around on the floor for 4 years doing my vocal exercises, and they've helped me, and they're wonderful, and I can create characters and interpret scripts and things like that. But that has very little. That has bupkis to do with the business. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I said I was going back to your comment about content, but I also want to go forward, but it's also kind of back, because you mentioned a few times about feeling like you are in the wrong century or born at the wrong time. And a big reason I wanted to have you on is because you're also a professional singer, and I'm so fascinated with your group, the Harmony Dolls. I mean, because you all sing Lennon Sister songs and you dress up like them. I mean, it's so incredible to me. How did this even come about?
So I did a musical at it was called the Falcon Theater. It's now called the Gary Marshall Theater here in Toluca Lake. I did a musical with my friend Gail Bianchi. She asked me to audition for this group doing Andrews Sisters music. And I said, oh, I love Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and Don't Sit Under the Apple Tree. And they needed a soprano, somebody to do the sort of the higher line. Although the Andrews Sisters were like, I heard this once from, I think, one of our band members. He said the Andrews Sisters really thought of themselves like saxophones. They jump all over. They don't stay the soprano doesn't stay on the high line. They got bored easily. They fly into each other's vocal lines all the time. So it's really quite remarkable to sing. And the ladies that you see there in that picture, Gail Bianchi and Megan Briones, who's the producer, I've been singing with them for, gosh, I think almost 10 years now. And we have a ball. We have a 7-piece band we perform with. We had the great honor of performing at the First Ladies Luncheon in Washington, D.C. last year.
Yes, I was. I mean, I was just so thrilled for you to see when I read that story, and I had that in mind. That's why I was thinking I have got to talk to her, because this is such a disparate thing from your audiobook narration.
Well, I mean, I've been singing since I was a kid, and this was kind of the perfect way to keep my toe in it. You know, the days of me, auditioning for big musicals or to try to go on tour or something are just not happening. It's not, that's just not aligning. I think in either my desires or my ability right now. And this is such a wonderful way to shake the dust off and get to sing with a band and a trio. And I love this music. I mean, when I sing it, when we sing like Begin the Begin, or there's even, I mean, some of these songs, people would look and be like, oh, that's so cheesy or so treacly or so sentimental. And I just go, all I can do is shake my head, because this music is timeless to me.
Yes.
And, I studied piano as a child. My mom said, hey, if you want to be a singer on Broadway, you're going to learn how to read music. And I'm so grateful she did. And my father was a self-taught, he's alive, but like, and in his youth, he was a self-taught trumpeter and pianist and guitarist. So my sister's a composer. So we have music kind of flowing through our family. And yeah, I love singing with these gals. And we, it's something that has I would want to say like a limited audience. It's not, I mean, this is approaching music this is the 40s, it's really 30s and 40s. It's really from long ago. But
as you said, it is timeless.
It is. I think it is. And I love singing it.
Did you get to meet Joe Biden at that luncheon?
No, they keep everybody pretty far away from the dais where everybody was sitting, and a good thing too, because I of course came home with COVID from that. So I came home. I looked at my husband. I said, I'll be in the other room. I'm going to stay there until I'm over this. But it was worth it. I think I know where I got it. It was at the luncheon, and it just. But I had a big smile on my face. I was like, here we go, Paxlovid.
Well, I saw in 2021 that you sang for the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and you thanked the USO for having you back. So do you do engagements with the USO often?
We do sometimes. COVID was very difficult. That kind of a lot of things stopped, and also, I'm not we're not the only three that you see in that picture. We've got We've got about 3 different casts of ladies, which is great because I couldn't possibly go on all the gigs. I mean, they just did one at the Bel Air Club a couple weeks ago that looked gorgeous. Um, so we've got like 3 sopranos, 3 mezzos, 3 altos, and that's great because everybody travels, everybody's, doing different things. And so when I get these gigs, I really treasure them.
I wondered how you were managing to split your time between doing that and being in a recording studio narrating a book.
Well, what's nice is that a lot of these gigs are on the weekends, and I try to keep a pretty strict 9 to 5, or not 9 to 5, Monday through Friday recording schedule, and I really try to give myself weekends off.
Serena Shull wrote in the chat that she has an idea for you. She said she's not sure if this fits, but have you heard of Lizzie and the Triggermen? Because maybe she uses opening acts or would like to hire you, I guess.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'll send that on to our producer.
So you're not having to do all the scheduling of the group. You have a producer that's doing that.
Oh, Karen, that is a job. That is a job that I cannot do. I'm very, very pleased to get an email saying, here it is, can you do it? And checking my calendar. That is, as you know, it's so much work and so much time. So, yes, I'm very happy to leave that. And the self-promotion and the competition and bidding on jobs, all the things they do is its own small business.
Because I guess you're still having to promote yourself as a narrator, even as prolific as you are.
Oh, Karen, yes, I have avoided it. I have avoided it to the extent that I can avoid it, but I can't avoid it any longer. I think something happens when you kind of have been around a while. You can get, there are new people all the time. And, my fight, I think now is probably not a fight, but my challenge is to stay relevant. Is that what the people are calling it these days? To stay top of mind, and because I was new to everybody once. But there are new producers, new publishers.
Yep.
I always want to be new to people and not, we've heard her 1,000 times. So.
Yeah, Anne and I have talked about that a lot. And you're always saying, oh, there's new people coming and new.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to keep on your toes. And it isn't even just that, it's just the whole industry. Everything about what we do changes so rapidly. And the people that are casting us, I mean, the whole gamut of it, the skills we need, the landscape of, the variety of things that we need to be doing and aware of, it just doesn't stop.
Yes, it doesn't. And when, here's the I don't know, the thing. I'm just going to use it because I don't have the right word. Here's the thing that kind of makes me take pause. So, I was on the APAC planning committee for last year. I was co-chair of the production track at APAC. And so when we'd be thinking of people sometimes, like, oh, who would be a great panelist for blah, 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 blah. Well, who comes to the top of your mind? Someone you've worked with or worked for. And maybe somebody comes into your mind because you've, I don't know, seen them on social media or seen something, an article they were featured in or whatever. And I go, how does that happen? How do we create perceptions of people who we might not have ever met before? But we need to know who they are in this business. And some of that is a social media presence.
It's essential.
So I know. So would I love to just be, working away in a studio and closing the door at 3:30 in the afternoon, picking up my kid from preschool and being done with it?
Yes.
Of course I would.
Yeah. But at least we had those days, Erin. I mean, the people coming now, that's the genie doesn't go back in the bottle kind of a thing. The way we march forward is the way it continues on. It's never going to go back to those halcyon days that we knew. So at least we had them. But we're moving with the times, and that's a good thing.
And we'll raise a glass to those times. I remember when I was still doing in-person auditions with my voiceover agent in Beverly Hills and this is not audiobook related. This is other voiceover stuff. I used to sit in the waiting room, and some of these older guys, who were like, here, young pup, let me tell you the way it used to be. Let me tell you a tale. Sit by the fire and let me tell you the way it used to be before, when this business was X, blah, 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 blah. So I know that this all comes in waves. We're all doing something for 10 years and then it changes. And here it seems to even change much quicker than that.
Yes.
I don't know about you, Anne, but my first script was a paper script. I was in a studio. Lunch was provided. I had a director and an engineer. Those days are he's still here maybe for some, but that was lots of things have changed, and here we are in Clubhouse.
Yeah, Brilliance used to fly Anne to their studio.
I know.
And put me up. Yeah. No, but it's all good. It has to all be good. And so I'm just saying, I'm glad I had those times, but now I have to embrace what it is going forward.
Yes. And you know what? I think, where would I be without audiobooks? I sometimes, I think, I feel like the OG, Bottom the Weaver in Midsummer Night's Dream. Let me play every part, I was always that person. So, here I just get to let it fly. And I go, where would I be? And the nicest, the best people in the world. Like, I mean that sincerely. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in. I don't know how plying my trade would look if I weren't narrating. I've got a much more balanced, happy life. And I'm grateful for it every day. But Anne, Karen, we're still gonna have a little glass of brandy. And
oh yes. Here's to that.
Well, I don't drink, but I'll be there with Coke. How about, Coca-Cola, not the other kind of Coke.
Coca-Cola, whatever your pleasure is. I'm not judging.
Well, I realized that didn't come out quite the way I wanted.
They got sparkling water in every flavor now. Don't worry. We got something for everyone.
We do. And we can't let you go. I'm sure you have a more refined question about this, Karen, but now that you're, moving along and you have your role in the APA, you have to tell us all about that.
Oh my gosh.
I was just, great minds think alike, because I was going there too.
I know you were.
She is officially the VP of Voice Talent for the Audio Publishers Association.
Okay, so let me tell you what that means in English.
Yeah,
I still don't understand what an executive producer or an executive vice president or a senior VP, people with all these cool corporate titles. I need to read a list somewhere and educate myself, because basically what that means is here's my goal as VP of Voice Talent Communications within the APA, is to serve the members of the APA, particularly those who are audiobook narrators, to foster communication and partnering with the people who we make audiobooks with. I want to foster development and relationships between producers, publishers, and narrators, because we're all partners in the business. And I know, coming from an actor's perspective, coming from an actor's point of view, I know not everybody who is successful in audiobooks comes from this background, but just using my own experience, it can often feel like a very unmatched, unbalanced kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to do is to work with people on all sides of the audiobook making enterprise to learn more about the business of audiobooks,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of humanize each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so going back to like my weird thing, like the movies I watched as a child, like kind of informed my young adulthood to kind of an absurd extent. I kind of thought like, you know, a producer of anything was like a guy sitting at a big table with a big cigar and a, you know, like a ha, you know, it's like straight out of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, this is like, you know, I maybe it's just because I've been easily intimidated by my experience in the kind of the Hollywood, the little corner of Hollywood with which I was involved. That as an actor, I have felt so small. And so, you know, sort of like Oliver Twist, you know, please, sir, I want some more. You know, like, can I please pour some gruel into my bowl so I can pay my rent? You know, like it's kind of an icky position to be in, and I was in it for quite a long time. Feeling, you know, can I ask for this, or I want so much. Please pick me, please. And now in my, you know, now that those days are kind of comfortably a bit in the rearview mirror, to some extent, I kind of want to go, no, I'm a big important piece of what these folks are making. They can't make it without me.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I should realize my own worth on one hand, and another hand, try to better understand where those folks in the business are coming from, so I can partner with them,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, you know, sitting on my hands waiting to be chosen, or hoping that something comes in. I'm not saying that still doesn't happen. It sure does. Having a slow August at the moment, but you know, trying to empower narrators. We're members of the Audiobook Publishers Association, and, you know, let's stand up and be counted, and let's let people know what we need, and let's find out what everyone else needs, so we can provide it.
Are you
Yeah.
going to New York regularly for meetings for that, or is it all on the phone? Or
we just had the big board meeting in New York. That was very exciting. Meeting everyone face to face, having the board meeting. Robert's Rules of Order, is that what it's called? You know, motion and I, and, you know, just the officialness of it, and the you know, it's serious on one hand. You know, this is a trade association, and this is a powerful industry. But ultimately, we're all people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm trying to get to know my fellow board members as people, and also as business partners. To that end, there's a brand new series of webinars that I'm going to be hosting, called the Business Hour.
Oh.
And that's all going to be on the APA website, that you can sign up for if you're a member of the APA.
I think there's one next. Is it next week or week after next?
Yeah, it's the 25th, I believe, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our first guest, we're going to talk to Michelle Cobb, who's the executive director, but also an indie producer herself, indie publisher. So I'm going to talk to her, and then also talk to Ronnie Butler, the wonderfully talented actor who is the outgoing VP of Voice Talent Communications. So we're going to kind of see what he's learned from his time. And then in the future, I mean, we're going to talk to Adam from Positron. We're going to talk to producers, studio owners, publishers, actors. I also wanted to make my email available for anybody who wants to contact me for any reason, anything they'd like to be brought up. I'm keeping everything, by the way, completely confidential. I'm never going to reveal names. If you have, a touchy situation or something that you're like, I really want to keep this quiet, I'm using all of this. I want to use narrators' experiences, narrators' concerns and questions, narrators' complaints and rants, and narrators' comments and reviews about good things that are happening in the business, completely confidentially shared with many of our guests when we're having conversations. So if anyone wants to email me, is it okay if I put my email in the chat?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I'm going to figure out how to do that. Oh, how can you? It's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. I will figure out how to do that. Oh, here we go. Room chat. Here we go. Okay, Erin.
Oh, okay, great.
Here it goes. I've got it.
Great.
Bennett.
You are empowered.
Well, let's
have a look at it.
Here we go. Let's, I want us to feel, I did this for kind of selfish reasons, I gotta say. Like, I went, what is keeping me from, I don't know, maybe feeling as confident as I should? What is keeping me from, I don't know, what prevents me from feeling equal to any situation I'm in where there's a publisher in the room? What's that little tiny thing in my voice that goes, you got to be really careful now, or don't say the wrong thing, or I'm one of those foot in the mouth people. Like when I don't feel completely comfortable, I'm the person who just says something kind of awkward, and then there's that dead silence, and then the polite person covers it or changes the subject. But I know when I'm not totally comfortable. So I was like, what is keeping me from feeling this way? And I think part of it is keeping us. I have a sense of mystery with the publishers in the Audiobook Publishers Association. And I want to change that. I think knowledge is power.
Yeah. Will the episodes be, I know that's the webcasts, will they be recorded, Erin?
They will, and I believe they will be available to rewatch, much as this chat is available to replay. Correct?
It will be,
yes.
and in
Wonderful.
fact, it will be on podcast platforms in a couple months. So,
oh my gosh! Oh, you're so ahead of the game. Oh, you're so ahead of the game.
He's amazing.
I love that you play the harp like a Renaissance queen, and then
I think Renaissance queens played it better.
No.
But you're the most tech savvy. Like what is this cool thing called Clubhouse? What the hell? I'm stuck in the Stone Age. This is see, people are complicated and magical, and I just love that. So.
Well, you are the perfect person to be spearheading this new initiative, the perfect bridge and conduit, for want of a better word, for what you're visualizing between the producers, the narrators, and the whole industry coming together.
Saw what it was.
Thank you. I want us. There's so much that's happening. That there's so much that's happening that is happening so fast. I'm also one of those people who always feels like I'm the last to know. I'm the last to hear, and I'm like what? And it doesn't mean that I have to gossip. But it means that I want to be thinking about. Yeah, I just want to know more. And for so long, I was so happy to put my head down, be in my booth from 9:30 to 3, and and just and be thankful that the work kept coming.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm a mom, and I'm thinking, if I'm gonna like my kid's gonna go to college eventually. She might not want to. It's not for everybody, but if she does, you know, I'm in this for the long haul.
Yes.
And I want to be smart, and I want to help other narrators. If anyone feels a fraction of the way I do sometimes, intimidated,
Mm-hmm.
I want to help them, and thereby helping myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to humanize. I think there are kind of a lot of things that, I'm not saying publishers sit in an ivory tower and have no concept of what we do, but I have a big concept of what I do and what my life is like, and what other narrators who I talk about, what their lives are like, and I want everybody to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I want to rise. You know, let's lift that tide and lift all the boats with it.
Yeah. Well, you're going to be the perfect lady for that.
Absolutely.
Well, I just talk a lot.
But you have
No.
You ask questions and it just all comes out. I spend a lot of time by myself, talking to myself. Can you tell? in this booth.
No, you are good and true, Erin. It shines forth, and you know your heart's in the right place, and you are a fabulous communicator. So that's all it takes. You know, good heart and mind, and say what you think. You know, and you are.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. And I will tell you, I'll be completely honest with you. After that first board meeting, which was, I think, 5 hours in person, 4 or 5 hours in
Oh,
person, I
gosh.
did go back to the hotel, and I collapsed and I think
Yeah.
I napped for like 45 minutes. I just was
Mm,
dead to the world, because
mm,
it is a lot.
mm,
It is a lot, but it is also exciting. There are so many businesses that are trying to stay alive in this
mm.
time right now.
Yes.
I don't want to say that I like have a smell, like a radar for desperation or anything like that, but what is so nice about audiobooks is that as long as I've been involved in them, they've been a rising, expanding industry, and
Mm,
it is exciting to
mm,
be in something that's rising.
mm.
For a while during my regional theater career, as soon as I would work at a place, it would go dark. Like the
Oh,
season is, this was like around 07, 08.
yes.
Um,
and there's no connection between those two statements,
No,
because you said
of
as soon
course
as I
not.
worked there, it would go dark.
no, and I would go, what did I do? And then it's like realize, right? Because that's an immature actor's perspective about everything, right? Everything is all about me, and
Mhm.
it's my fault that it was bad, right? Like, right? That's the psychological mindset of, I didn't blame myself, but that was always like I knew to sort of filter that out after a while, but that was my first impulse, was like, oh, what did I do? But then I realized, I don't. The theater's been dead for years and keeps rising, but I did have that sense that something about this career that I loved so much, first of all, wasn't able to pay a living wage in Los Angeles. Just have to say it. Sorry, there it is. Without supplementing it with commercials and voiceover work and all that stuff. But I mean, not even to make a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. That's just the reality that nobody tells you, and things have just gotten just exponentially worse. The Mark Taper Forum here is closing their season. These are tough times, also post COVID.
Mm,
So to have sort of felt that happening as audiobooks started to rise, and I was talking to, I'm sitting on the Pasadena Playhouse fire escape with Mark Brownhall, right? And we're just talking about how great, Noel Coward is or whatever. And, you know, I realized that he was able to make a living being in regional theater, making, a top theater salary for this town, doing 8 shows a week,
mm,
but also narrating audiobooks, going, oh, this is how we survive.
mhm,
So I am very aware that this is also about survival. Our union health insurance.
mhm.
This is how a lot of people in the arts can make a living. And I don't take any of that lightly. I think that's kind of a sacred calling.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm proud of what actors have achieved, and I'm proud that in this world of 240 characters and tiny little short 20-second videos on TikTok, that there are people who have appetites for 11 hours of audiobooks.
Mm-hmm.
That is just, that's a miracle that I never saw coming, ever. Like, I never knew. I thought that was just like something quaint from like my childhood, like listening to The Hobbit that that I carried over. But
Yeah.
the fact that as everything gets shorter and attention spans get smaller and all this, that people would want to invest in hours and hours of listening to a human voice. I mean,
And to that
sign me
point,
up.
Erin, do you remember the day when you would record, or anybody of our era would record an audiobook, and then automatically, having finished the complete one, you go on to the abridgment, and that's a thing of the past?
No, Anne, I don't
No.
remember that. I do.
Oh, I predate you.
No. This isn't. No, I'm so eager. We need to learn about this. Look. I was talking with a bunch of folks earlier on who had no concept. They had no concept that things were ever using tape, or that you went into a studio with a director, that things were live directed. So people have to we have to be educated, or that such a small stable of narrators sometimes worked for only one publisher.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and did books that they were wildly inappropriate for. I mean, and the whole world has changed, just everything. But no, I was kind of making the point, though, that now it's more long form, more and more and more in what we do. There aren't abridgments anymore. They
Yes,
have gone. And so that's kind of an odd thing, which it's I'm saying it to prove your point, or,
yes.
yeah, bolster that, in that there is a desire. Well, now, because it's so much easier, instead of having to go and, those cassette cases would be big. I mean, if you had a 30 CD book, that was a big doorstop of a thing. And now you're just walking around, anybody is, with their phone, and they have a library
And it's
of things.
there.
Yeah.
Weren't abridgments specifically for the length of the cassette tape, I believe, because you could only get like something like 47 minutes on each side. So
Mm-hmm.
you were limited by
Yes.
the amount that you could get on each side. I mean, I have my first, like,
Yeah.
my dad's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, 6 cassettes. I mean, I remember how each one, side A and side B, started in each one, because I
Mm-hmm.
wore those things out.
Bless you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And abridgers had whole careers, like John McElroy and Lisa Khan. They
Yes.
abridged audiobooks.
Lisa. Oh, see,
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning something every day. What we should have. We should have. I think for one of these business hours, we need to have a fireside chat with the old hoary days of old, HOARY days of old, when ice covered the earth. The way it was.
Yes. Perspective. Yeah.
Yes, perspective. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We
where we've
don't.
been, because you
Right.
can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. Well, you know what I mean, or it's better to know where you've been. That's history. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We need perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
that's part of, and publishing. It's a very ancient art form, if you will. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not as old as people telling stories around a campfire, or a
In
Beowulf or something,
caves. Yeah.
but it is still, and it's mostly, and it's been print for so long.
Yes.
Audio is such a relatively new arm that I think we need to understand that that's a gigantic ship that moves slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And with the way things are now, you've got to be sort of like a speedboat, running
Mm-hmm.
around and adapting, and a book up here and all the different ways that you market books and indie publishers and all this stuff are a very different kind of boat, if you will. So
And each boat that we ride in demands a new technological skill. That's the other thing. I mean, once upon a time, all you had, all in inverted commas, you had to do was be able to narrate the book. That was your only job. Now look at all the hats that we have to wear, and they will not get less. They will get more, I predict. And
yes,
maybe it will be, the industry is still very young, but at some point somebody will write a history of this, Erin, and you, Karen, and myself will be in it, I hope.
look at that in glorious audio of this little Apogee plug-in USB mic that's going into my phone. You know what just kills me? I used to listen to these things. Everyone's listening on this crappy little MP3, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we have the gloriousness of wave files available to us. But this technology is just going to get bigger and
Yes.
better. Someday, it's going to be stereo surround, perfect sound, coming out of everybody's phone. Somehow they'll do it.
Or some sound that we don't even know about yet. That isn't called stereo. It's called something else, because it's bound to be something else, Erin. It's always something else that demands another learning curve. But
It is.
that's the way it is.
Maybe we can smell the audiobook at that point. I mean,
Oh, I'm not sure we'd want to.
yeah, absorb it. Yes, osmosis. Osmo audiobooks.
Well, this has really been such a wonderful conversation, Erin, and we're already past the hour, but I cannot let you get away without answering a pit stop hot seat question.
Oh.
And I think the one I'll ask you is, because you've talked about watching movies and certainly all the books you've read, which fictional character do you wish was real and why?
Oh, it's got to be it's Merlin from The Once and Future King.
Interesting choice, and why?
Because so The Once and Future King, when Merlin is transforming the wart, right, young King Arthur, into animals, so he can see the world like a king would or like a peasant would. Oh gosh, Merlin was probably either Merlin or Gandalf, probably from the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Interesting, both fantasy characters. I've always wanted to take tea with a wizard.
Sounds like it'd be fun.
Yes.
And do you have any advice you can share with other people who want to expand their horizon beyond narration?
Beyond narration?
Yes, because like you're narrating and you're singing and now you're taking on this part with the APA in a greater capacity. And
okay, so I would say learning to trust your gut over your head is really hard to do. I'm working at it every day, but I find that it's times that I've had an instinct and trusted it that have led me to a good opportunity, rather than just thinking of something from the top down and working it out logically. So, if your love of music, it leads you to some pretty esoteric stuff. Well, look, I'm in the Harmony Dolls. I'm singing this stuff all the time. There's a place for your art, I guess. Yeah, there's a place for all this to go. I just wish everyone a smooth journey as possible. It's never smooth and it's never easy, but it's worthwhile.
Yes, keep the faith.
Yes.
And you are the perfect person at the helm now that will be helping us all to keep the faith. And it's wonderful to have that line of communication with you privately to express, the things that are on our mind, and then you'll be able to bring those to higher levels.
Please do. I'm keeping copious notes about communications I'm getting from actors. I'm categorizing them into, possible topics of conversation for the business hour. So everything that is sent to me, I read and I'm making notes of. So I take it very seriously what my fellow actors have to say.
Marvelous.
your email address is in the chat if people want to scroll up and find it, because you had left that earlier.
Yes, please.
Do you have any final words or anything you want to plug, or what's coming up for you?
That's coming up. For me, the business hour is coming up. That's kind of the big thing that I'm the overarching thing that I'm looking at. There are so many highs and lows, and I've been booked pretty consistently and solidly for 10 years now, and I'm very lucky to be able to say that. I'm looking at a little bit of a lighter schedule. I'm trying to trust that. So, I'm practicing what I preach all the time. Like, a lot of this doesn't feel easy and it doesn't feel comfortable, but I'm trying to expand what I can do, and leaving room for new ideas and new things to come. So it's so hard when you're just trying to plug away and be like, I want 100 books, or I want 150 books, or I want 200 books, and to just go, maybe sometimes the universe is leading you in different directions, and try to flow with it rather than fight it.
Yes.
Where were you 5 or 6 or 7 years ago? Because I could have used that then. I still have that today. I mean, so I appreciate you saying that so much, of that maybe the universe is trying to lead us in a different direction than we imagined. And probably the things we want are coming to us, but in a way we didn't expect, is what I think.
Yes. And some of it means that there's time without immediate work. But I have to believe that the seeds that I'm sowing, like I forget sometimes about the work that I've put in. I forget that there were some actors we met at a recording studio and paid a small fee to the engineer and the leader. We did a commercial voiceover workout group. I used to drive once a week to Santa Monica and do this from 7 to 10 after hours. We just did it to just practice and work out. I forget sometimes that I did that I sat on that freeway and I schlepped over after my working day, after my auditioning day, and I did it just so that I could be better at what I'm doing. And that all that work and all that hassle and all that sitting on the freeway had benefits years later that I wasn't realizing it in the moment. But now they've come to fruition. And so now I gotta, sometimes I gotta plant the seeds now and water and make sure it's got plenty of sunlight, knowing that something's going to sprout a little bit down the road that I don't even know about yet.
Exactly. I so agree with all of that.
And on that positive note, I think it's time for everybody to get back on the road. So we're going to conclude today's pit stop. The recording will be available on Clubhouse later today, and probably sometime next week I'll post it with a transcript and links on narratorsroadmap.com. And I'm thrilled to report Pit Stop is now also available on your favorite podcast platform, including Apple and Audible. And who is coming up tomorrow on Narrator Uplift?
Carol Monder, another industry legend.
Hooray!
Yes.
Yeah, that will be fun. Well, I appreciate everybody joining us today. We've had a lot of comments about it was a fantastic discussion, Erin. And I hope all of you will take another road trip with us on August 30th, when we'll talk with audiobook narrator and publisher Joe Hempel. In the meantime, I hope you find joy in every journey and live the life of your dreams. Thanks so much to Anne Flosnik for all your great questions and support. Thanks again, Erin, for this delightful conversation. It's been a joy to talk with you.
And it's a privilege and an honor. Thank you, Anne and Karen. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You're a star, Erin. You really are.
And thanks to all of our audience for your comments and enthusiasm, and for spending time with us today. Hope you all have a wonderful week, and we'll see you